Hello everyone! Today I want to show you one of the more interesting bikes we've had through the workshop recently. Today we've got a BMW F800GT in the workshop, and this one showed up just in time. At first glance it doesn't look too bad, but mechanically that's a different story. So let's go through everything this bike needs. First, the rear brake pads are basically gone. There's maybe 5% left. Moving down the left-hand side, we can already see signs of a few small slides. Most of the fairings have deep scratches, chips and cosmetic damage. The front mudguard is also half broken off. Then we get to the forks, and these are leaking badly. Especially the right fork leg. It looks like they've been leaking for so long that the finish on the fork lowers has started to fail. So these will need a full rebuild, refinishing and proper servicing. The exhaust is heavily corroded too, which usually means one thing. This is probably not coming apart nicely. And on these bikes, rotted exhaust studs are a very common problem. On the right hand side, it looks like the bikes also had a run-in with a cyclist at some point. A few pieces of bodywork are broken or missing completely. We've seen worse, but these panels definitely need replacing. Drive belt is new, which is actually a nice surprise. But the bar ends and grips are tired, the dash is showing a Christmas tree of warning lights, and the bike's done 36,000 miles. Now, for an F-Series BMW, that's really not huge mileage. But here's the main problem. The engine is seized. So, now we know what we're dealing with. Time to get stuck in. And naturally, we're starting with the engine. Right, we're about halfway through the removal now. At this point, all the engine ancillaries have been disconnected. And as expected, the exhaust fasteners are absolutely seized. So instead of fighting them in the frame, we're going to remove the engine with the exhaust still attached and separate it later once we've got better access. What's left now is the cooling system, and then we need to properly support the frame. That's because on this bike, the engine is actually a structural part of the chassis. And the single-sided swing arm mounts directly to it. So once the engine comes out, the rear of the bike is no longer supporting itself. Other than that, the engine is now basically ready to come out. Let's keep going. Once the engine is on the bench, we can start tearing it down and find out what actually caused the failure. Now, you might reasonably ask, why even strip down a seized engine if you can just buy another one? And honestly, that's a fair question. Because yes, in a lot of cases, it's actually cheaper and easier to buy a used replacement engine than it is to rebuild the original one. But here's why we still like to open them up first. When an engine is rebuilt properly, you know exactly what you've got. Everything is inspected, measured, corrected and brought back to standard. That means we can stand behind the work, and the owner can be confident that the engine is actually healthy and reliable. A used engine from a breaker, on the other hand, is always a bit of a gamble. Even if it comes with some kind of warranty, you still don't really know what's going on inside it. And in most cases, even a used engine still needs a deep inspection and service before it should ever go into a bike. So in this case, we wanted to find out one thing. Can this engine actually be saved? Now, generally speaking, the black BMW F-Series engines, not the earlier grey ones, are actually pretty solid and reliable. We've seen plenty of them go well past 100,000 miles without major issues. So when one of these seizes, it's often a sign of poor maintenance or an oiling problem. And straight away in the sump we found this broken plastic teeth from the oil pump drive gear, and that is not a good sign. A bit of dusty work later, and here it is. So now the engine is fully stripped, and unfortunately the news is not good. This engine is not worth rebuilding, and here's why. We've got clear signs of severe overheating on both the crank journal and the main bearing journal. That kind of damage is simply beyond what makes sense to repair. We've also got a spun bearing shell on one of the rods, and judging by how badly it's smeared, the temperature inside this engine must have been extreme. That rod is scrap. Interestingly, the second con rod actually looks decent, but unfortunately that doesn't save the rest of the bottom end. When the engine stopped suddenly, it also destroyed the plastic oil pump drive gear, and those broken teeth are exactly what we found in the crankcase. On top of that, the bearing surfaces in the crankcase itself have also been damaged. So at this point, rebuilding this engine just doesn't make financial sense. The better option here is to source a replacement engine and then go through that one properly before fitting it, which is exactly what we did. And here it is, the replacement engine has arrived. Now let's get it prepared properly before it goes into the bike. Before fitting it, we checked the compression, and it came back at a healthy 14 bar on both cylinders. We also checked the valve clearances and replaced the spark plugs while access was easy. Once that's done, it's time to get everything back into the frame and start putting this bike back together. Now, one of the known weak points on these F-series engines is the water pump sealing system, and this replacement engine arrived with signs of coolant and oil contamination, so we weren't going to ignore that. That means replacing the water pump seals and the oil cooler/heat exchanger seals as well. And just look at the condition of these old seals. Not great. So rather than patching one small issue at a time, we are replacing the whole lot as a set and doing it properly. Since we're already this deep into the job, it made sense to inspect the clutch as well, and here's what we found. The friction plates are clearly worn, and the steel plates are showing signs of heat. So the clutch pack is getting replaced with a new set. While we're in here, we're also checking the needle bearing in the clutch basket and measuring the basket shim clearance to make sure everything is still within spec. Once that's all confirmed, we can seal the engine cover back up, continue the reassembly, and of course, don't forget to adjust the clutch cable properly once everything is back together. And before the first start, fresh oil and filter, obviously, no shortcuts here. now, the moment we've been waiting for. There it is. The engine fires up, runs cleanly, and sounds healthy. Now we just need to carry out the adaptations and clear the remaining fault codes. With the engine side of the job under control, we can finally move on to the rest of the bike. Next up, front suspension. This fork is getting a full rebuild, including new guide bushes, fresh fork oil, new seals, and new dust seals. And honestly, just look at the bike with no front end on it. It looks like a spaceship. Once the rebuild is done, the fork lowers are refinished, everything is back together, and the front end is finally ready to go back on. And of course, we haven't forgotten about those rear brake pads either. Those are getting replaced too. Mechanically, this bike needed a lot of help, but visually it wasn't exactly in great shape either. Cracked fairings, scratches, scuffs, and signs of a few small impacts over the years. So rather than trying to save every damaged panel, we decided to source a set of good original used fairings and repaint the whole set in the factory original color. First everything gets prepped for paint, then we apply primer, sand everything smooth, lay down the base coat, and finish it with clear coat. In total, the paintwork on this bike took us around 30 hours. And yes, that's a lot of work, but once you see the final result, it's absolutely worth it. Because compared to how this bike came in, the difference is huge. While the painted bodywork is curing, we took the chance to deep clean the bike underneath and get everything ready for final assembly. And now we're into the final stage of this whole project, putting the freshly painted bodywork back onto the bike. And in just a moment, we're finally going to see this F800GT come back together in its new form. And here it is, the same BMW F800GT now fully back together, clean, sorted, mechanically sound, and looking exactly how it should. And when you compare it to how it came in, it's hard to believe it's the same bike. From a seized engine, leaking forks, worn brakes and damaged bodywork, to a bike that's now properly brought back to life. And this is exactly why jobs like this are worth doing. And out on the road, the difference is exactly what you'd hope for. The engine runs smooth, pulls cleanly, and everything feels exactly as it should. There are no warning lights, no fault codes, no strange noises, just a bike that now works properly again. The suspension feels planted, the controls feel right, and overall the bike feels tight, stable, and confidence-inspiring on the road. And that's really the whole point of a job like this. Not just to make it run, but to bring it back to the kind of condition where you can actually trust and enjoy it again. What came in as a tired, damaged and mechanically failed bike is now back to being a clean, solid and properly sorted BMW F800GT. And this is exactly why we do what we do. See you on the next one.